entertainment, 100% electricity, 100%
Pipebomb Radio with your host, Felix Olmedo.
Be the man, you gotta beat the man,
Austin James.
And that's the bottom line, 'cause Stone Cold said so.
And Nate Milton.
Can you dig it, sucker?
Welcome, everybody, to Pipebomb Radio tonight. At a special time, we actually bring on a very special guest. I'm your host, along with, of course, Austin. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing absolutely phenomenal. It's freezing cold out here in Louisiana, but it's going to be a great show with the legend, Tom Prichard.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And, of course, as always, Mr. Nate Milton. How are you, buddy?
I'm all right, brothers. I'm feeling a little sick, so hopefully we can talk to a doctor tonight.
Well, without further ado, he has been waiting patiently. Wrestling legend. They called him the Doctor of Desire. They call him the Doctor, the Good Doctor. Nonetheless, he is wrestling legend Tom Prichard, and we welcome him to the show. How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great. It's a little cold here in Knoxville, Tennessee, too, so I can imagine how Louisiana feels. Man, you're further south than we are.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Real cold.
Yeah, you can definitely feel that winter season coming.
Yeah, we have another month to go, but, man, it feels like it's already hit us. So, yeah, great to be here tonight, guys.
Definitely an honor, sir. Definitely an honor. We've definitely kept up with your career over the years, from the days of the Heavenly Bodies to the Body Donnas to training future world champions. So definitely, you can go without a doubt saying you are a trainer of champions.
Well, yeah, I think so too, man. But, I mean, they were champions when they got to me. So I was just very fortunate to be at the right time, at the right place, and happy to have a hand in a couple of those guys' careers and help them out outside the ring as well. So, yeah, it was all good.
Absolutely. And I will just kick things off and ask, going back to your childhood, you and your brother, for those who don't know, you are related to Bruce Prichard, is that correct?
That is correct.
Growing up as children, what got you guys interested in watching professional wrestling?
Well, it was something that as long as I can remember, I think my first memories would be probably 4 years old watching wrestling on TV in El Paso, Texas, and it was something that from the first time I saw it, there were these incredibly colorful characters on a black and white TV. But their personalities and their costumes pretty much came across even in black and white. The Funk Brothers, the Von Brauners with Gentleman Saul Weingroff, the Infernos with J.C. Dykes as their managers, and all these crazy people did things on TV, and they didn't get arrested for it. You know, they were allowed to do it legally. So that just fascinated the living hell out of us. And, of course, it was a lifelong obsession, and then we moved to Houston, Texas when I was 10 years old and continued watching wrestling with a whole different crew and cast of characters. So it was guys like the Funks, Dory Funk Sr., Dory Jr., and Terry Funk, who originally intrigued me into wanting to be wrestlers. And then moving to Houston, watching guys like Johnny Valentine, Walter McDaniel, and of course in El Paso and Houston it was Harley Race. Guys like that just would go out to the ring and make you believe what they were doing was real, and they had this larger than life personality and this incredible aura and mystery about them that just pretty much drug and sucked me into everything about the lifestyle and professional wrestling. And once I started reading about the lifestyle and reading about these guys traveling from town to town, it was so appealing to me. What a great thing to do, just be able to pack your bags and go from town to town, and just wherever you laid your hat, you called your home. And that just really was the coolest thing to me. So from day one that I can remember, this is all I ever wanted to do.
Now, growing up into your teen years, did you actually participate in any wrestling sports in high school?
No, in Texas at that time, I was in high school in the 70s, and they really didn't have too much wrestling going on in Houston in the high schools. But But I did start taking pictures of the wrestling magazines when I was 12 years old, and I did some correspondence with the Japanese magazine Gong. And I also, my older brother Ken got me a meeting with the promoter in Houston, Paul Bosch, and I was able to take pictures at ringside, which pretty much parlayed into working for him in the office during the summer, and becoming a second and a referee, and then on to being his assistant at ringside, and then eventually being able to get my first match. So while we didn't have amateur wrestling in Houston at the time, I was able to work my way in just by being there every Friday night in the Coliseum and being around so you could be seen. And that's pretty much how you broke in back in those days. You had to have somebody want to break you in. And Paul pretty much kept me in the dark about a lot of things, but after being coming to the matches for so long, every Friday night for 10 years, I mean, it was I was studying the guys, and Paul eventually let me be around more of the backstage stuff and behind the scenes. So it was an education better than amateur wrestling, in my opinion, because I wanted to be a pro wrestler. I really wanted to live that lifestyle, and that's kind of how that happened.
Well, Dr. Tom, let's stay in Houston for a little bit. Last week we had the pleasure to talk to Tugboat Taylor and his son Chaz, and we talked a lot about just the tradition of wrestling in Texas, you know, the Von Erichs and the Funks and the Guerreros and just a lot of great lineage that came out of that state. What do you think's in the water out there?
Well, I think it was, I didn't realize it at the time, although I did know that we saw some great wrestlers, but I didn't realize that we had some of the best in the business and in the world at that time. And for whatever reason, Texas always had this aura about it, as it was a rough and tough state, and it would be the match was called a Texas death match, which anything went. And there's a legendary story about Dory Funk Sr. and Iron Mike DiBiase in Amarillo, Texas. They had a Texas death match that went 5 hours into the night, and the angle was DiBiase's wife would be listening to the match on the radio and get in her car and speed down to the arena, the sports arena in Amarillo, and hopefully the cops would stop her and they would get some publicity out of that, but that never happened. She got down to the arena without being stopped. But, I mean, they did crazy and wacky stuff in Texas, and I think that bred a lot of creativity and original ideas. Like Terry Funk, in his younger days, I was, again, not realizing that I was watching the infancy of his career in the 1960s. Terry was a creative guy from the beginning. They did crazy stuff like the Von Brauners were two bald German guys, and they were managed by Saul Weinroth, a Jewish fellow. And this was in the 60s, where World War II was still, 20 years, 30 years past, but the memories were still pretty fresh, and it never hit me. But here's two Nazis managed by a Jew. Think about that for a minute. So, but they attacked Terry on TV and cut his hair and did this wild stuff. Usually guys would bleed from the head. On this occasion, Terry bled from the ear. So I mean, you didn't see stuff like that. It was kind of original. I think that going back to East Texas, you also had the Von Erichs, Fritz Von Erich, Wahoo McDaniel, Johnny Valentine, and guys, people who lived, breathed, and believed in the business. All the matches I saw with Johnny Valentine and Wahoo especially were stiff and as solid as it could be, and that was the pride, and that was the part of the business, the art form of the business that those guys really took seriously, and they lived it 24/7. So I think that was a big part of what was in the water in Texas. You had big, rough men who didn't mind actually getting busted open the hard way. That means you'd actually get hit in the face for real, for the sake of drawing a house the next week. So it was a total different business than it is today. You had weekly cards, and you had to build something for the next week, otherwise you didn't make any money. And when you had Fritz and guys like that, again, I go back to Johnny Valentine or Harley Race, Wahoo McDaniel. Those were guys who actually put out, and back then, they didn't tell everybody it was a work. They told you it was real, and if you question them, no matter how many exposés came out, every office had somebody who would be able to shoot or get in the ring and show you it was real. So, and that's, I think, especially was prevalent in Texas, because you had the good old boys and cowboys and people who worked hard for a living, and then they'd pay their money to go watch wrestling. And sometimes they got excited and drunk, and they got in a fight. And, and that was what it was. It was good old Texas wrestling. And Vince likes to make fun of it because, rightfully so or not, there were a lot of guys who went out there and would go out and work a solid match, and they just loved what they were doing. So that's kind of what I got out of Houston wrestling and Texas wrestling in general. It was a mindset, and it was a pride thing too, I think, with a lot of guys at that time. And
do you recall your first match? What were your feelings going into that? And the second part of that question is, how did you get in contact with Vince and the WWE?
Okay, well, I think anybody who loves the business remembers their first match, and mine was in Bryan, Texas, on October 20th, 1979. So I'll always remember that it was against El Satanico number 2. El Satanico number 1, I think, was sick that night. Who knows? But anyway, the point is, I remember that night, and it pretty much took off from there, getting booked around the South, and then I finally went to California at the end of January of 1980, and I pretty much stayed booked from then on. But getting to WWE eventually was, Bruce had gone and worked for Vince before I did, and he was Brother Love. So, and he had been there for years, and honestly, I never anticipated working for WWF at the time, or much less working in Madison Square Garden or anything like that. I was just happy to be in the business. I was happy to be wrestling, and just going to live my life on the road wherever it took me. But
there you go.
I was wrestling. I was wrestling in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and again, the business was changing, and Vince was going through the trial or just got out of the trial, and with steroids and things like that, and he wasn't sure what was going to happen. Jerry Jarrett was up there, and he was making contacts with various connections around the country too, and Bruce was also making contacts, and he happened to contact us in Smoky Mountain with an offer. I believe it was in 1993 for SummerSlam against the Steiner Brothers. It was supposed to be a one-time deal. Yep. And we came in and did the Steiner Brothers in 93, SummerSlam, and then we did Survivor Series with Rock and Roll Express. We defended the Smoky Mountain Championship, Tag Championship, on Survivor Series 93, I believe. And from there, we got signed in 94. We went to Japan, for All Japan, then we got signed in 94 by Vince. So, that's pretty much how it happened. It was just being at the right place at the right time. And that's pretty much how it happens in a lot of instances in the business. Yeah.
And now you wrestled across the United States and back, just everywhere. But like you just mentioned a second ago, Japan. You had quite the time in New Japan Pro Wrestling in 1981, I believe, 12 years before you were signed to WWE, and you've wrestled so many names, and most notably, definitely Antonio Inoki. You've had a few battles with him. How was your time in Japan?
I liked Japan. It was, but here's the thing. When you're young like that, I did my first tour when I was 21, and it was a 5-week tour. But I was looking at the business from a whole different aspect. I wasn't looking at Japan as a place to necessarily make a living, although I probably should have at the time if I really really think about it now. But I loved it, man. It was so cool. It was exotic, and the first time over there was really, really cool because I was over with the Wild Samoans, Alan Quage, Mr. Ito, some people that I had looked up to and knew about, prior to getting into business. So it was an eye-opening time. But I really wasn't looking at it from a very mature standpoint or business-like standpoint. I was looking at it as, well, here's 5 weeks vacation away from the States, rock and roll, sex, drugs, whatever you want to do. It was all fair game. So, whereas if I went over there and would have went for a job, I would have treated it a lot differently, or should have treated it a lot differently anyway. So, but I had a great time every time I was over there. It's very cool.
Okay.
Now, one of the interesting characters, I guess I'd say, maybe that's the best way to put it, that you spent a lot of time with over the course of your career is one Jim Cornette. Could you tell us a little bit about your association with Cornette and what is your fondest memory of Jim?
Well, I just saw Jim this past weekend, actually, he came into Knoxville and for Southeastern Championship Wrestling, the new revised edition, and he was proclaimed Jim Cornette Day here in Knoxville. So Jim has always been a very close friend and a great ally. He called me when I was in Memphis, not making a lot of money either, and offered me the spot in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, the team with Stan Lane. Once he and Stan left WCW and offered me the position and a steady gig. And from there on, it was one of those things where not only do I respect Jim for what he's done in the business, but I respect him for his loyalty. I respect him for the fact that if he tells you something, he's going to do it, and he'll follow through. So that's something you don't find every day in professional wrestling or sports entertainment. So Jim he speaks his mind. He definitely belongs in professional wrestling, not necessarily sports entertainment, and he'll tell you that himself. But he's a perfect, natural, real guy that just like Paul Heyman. I hate to draw the comparisons, but Heyman and Cornette are so similar. Yeah, in the fact that they belong where they are, because that's who they are. The Jim Cornette you see on screen is the Jim Cornette you see backstage. Just a little dialed up sometimes, but even backstage, he can be very, very animated, very, very passionate. And of course, he's very passionate. He's smart. He knows the business, and he understands how to get things done the right way. And what I mean by the right way, real quick, our job is to suspend people's belief and not go out there and just say, oh, hey, man, it's all just performance. They may know it's a performance, but let's not tell everybody. It's like when you go see a movie, you know it's a movie, but don't spoil it by saying, hey, this next scene, here's what we're going to do. And Jimmy firmly believes that, and Jimmy he's a big stickler for things like that. So my memories and my thinking about Jim, I think he's one of the smartest guys around that knows professional wrestling. He's very outspoken, which doesn't always help his cause, but at the same time, he believes what he believes. He's not going to compromise.
That's a very good point. And going from one notable character to another, you got to spend some time with and work with Chris Candido, better known as Skip at the time in the mid-1990s, him and Sonny. What was it? How did that come to be that they paired you up with him? And if you'd like, if you have some memories to share about working with Sonny and Skip?
Well, yeah, it wasn't one of my favorite times in the business, but it was one of those times where the Heavenly Bodies had run its course, and Smoky Mountain was done, and it was an opportunity presented to me, asked if I would like to cut my hair, dye it blonde, and put it in a crew cut, and I said, absolutely not. And they hung up on me, and I called them right back and said, well, by the way, it's just hair, sure. So I went ahead and we did that, but we cut it in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and went to a place to get my hair cut and dyed and everything else. And even up to the point right before I sat in the chair, I thought I might be able to talk my way out of it, but no such luck. And Chris, I loved Chris. He was a great guy. He loved the business, and he lived for the business. But when you're young and you're thrown into a Shark Tank, you know, with your girlfriend, who's a hot little girl and knows she's a hot little girl, and really threw it in front of everybody's face, Chris didn't know how to handle that. And so I was kind of in that scene with him, and it was kind of a rock and a hard place for a few reasons. But be that as it may, I love Chris. Yeah, I love Chris. She was great. Tammy was Tammy, and she's had her issues, and I hope she gets over her issues and lives well. But during that time, it wasn't the greatest time in the business for me. We won the WWF Tag Team Championships when the tag team division was the weakest probably it's ever been. And I don't say that disparagingly, I just say it because it was a fact. If you look back on what was going on then, yeah, it wasn't really setting stuff on fire. We're not oblivious to that. We're not saying, hey man, we were champions when. We kind of go, yeah, we were champions, sure. Okay, move on. So, and that's what it was, man. So, but it was a gig, and that's at that time in my life that there were issues going on with myself, and I think we were all dealing with issues at that time. But some people handle them differently and better, and sometimes you just have to handle them and get through it. So.
Now, throughout your career in professional wrestling, who will you give credit to being the people who've helped you get to develop who you are as a wrestler, in your career?
Who are some of the people that I would say helped me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I think, definitely Paul Bosch. Without Paul Bosch, I wouldn't have even been able to get my foot in the door. And, of course, Paul made it possible to train with the Iron Sheik when he was Muhammad Farouk. Yeah, I was in the office one summer, and there was a football player who wanted to try and wrestle, and he asked Paul if he could help him, and Gary Hart would come in every Friday morning before the show to the office and go over the matches with Paul, and one morning he brought the Sheik, and I brought him down to the Coliseum. We met the football player, and Sheik, he stretched me, there's more to the story, but he pretty much, he was instrumental in helping me learn the first couple months. Then later it would be Nick Kozak, Joe Mercer, some guys in Houston as well. But everybody, that I came across have either become mentors or have helped me. I can't just, Paul Bosch definitely, the Iron Sheik as well, but Dusty Rhodes later on in my career. Dusty Rhodes has become a mentor. I wish he would have been one earlier on, but in developmental and FCW, he really became one of those guys that he knew I could see. I believe, let me say this because I don't know what he knows, but I do know that he believed I could see what he was saying and understand what he was saying and how he was saying it. And the Dream will say something in a manner where you can't take it for face value. You have to look beyond that, and that's what I did a lot of times with him. But Terry Funk, Dory Funk, and anybody else that I watched growing up, they were very instrumental in helping me want to be wrestling and want to be wrestlers and get in wrestling. So.
Okay.
Now, one of the more interesting stages of your career, again with the Heavenly Bodies, was in Smoky Mountain, and you had a feud against a team that, let's just say, they were unconventional, and I'm talking about New Jack and Mustafa, the Gangsters. What do you recall about that feud, Dr. Tom?
I recall that I think one of the first times we wrestled them in Johnson City, they brought it, man, and New Jack was ready for it. Mustafa was good, man, but New Jack was one of those guys, and I can see why Cornette booked him. I can see why Cornette liked him, and he did like him, because New Jack was real. New Jack was and New Jack's a great guy. He's a really misunderstood guy, I think, because you watch the shoot interviews or you listen to him talk just on a regular interview, and you might look at him and say, man, what's up with that? But if you know him, you know what's up with that. And it's you take it or leave it. And I prefer that guy to tell me what it is and what he is and what it's about. And let's go ahead and put our cards out, as opposed to some people may come across in one way and do something else. But all my dealings with New Jack, anytime we worked in the ring with him, he brought it, and there was no apologies, there was no explanations needed, no apologies needed, no explanations needed, because that's what they needed to do to get what they needed to be, and they did it. So we had some. They were very professional too, man. We worked with them a lot. We had a fight with them outside the Knoxville Coliseum, all the way across the street, and did the angle there. Just some really good stuff with them, man. And they had good heat, but that's because that's who they are, and that's the greatest. I hate the word character, but that's the greatest personas and characters ever. The guys who are who they are on screen with the volume turned up. That's who New Jack and Mustafa were. That's who Stone Cold Steve Austin is, and Hunter, Triple H is the game. You look at John Cena. That is John Cena, and those are the guys who I think make it in the business and have staying power in the business. Mustafa and New Jack, they went different places, but once again, they can be very misunderstood. New Jack would do some things that could be considered outrageous and hardcore and a little over the edge, but at the same time, think about this, man. This is a crazy business, and if you want to get anywhere near it, you have to accept the consequences. So, if you, it's like playing with fire. Don't tell me you want to be a fireman and then you're afraid of fire, because that's not how it works, man. So, and New Jack took a couple people who said they want to be in wrestling. Well, this is part of paying your dues, kid, and people may not agree with me, and that's okay. That's why we all have opinions. So that's my opinion.
Well, speaking of opinions, I actually just wanted to ask, from your point of view, you've got to see things from a different perspective than we would say as fans. But as Vince gets older and moves on and relinquishes some power that he has, do you feel that Triple H and Stephanie are in good position to really take the company to a new era, I guess you could say, once they completely take it over?
Yeah, I see them taking it to a new era. I don't know how successful or how. No, let me take that back. I don't know how soon, once Vince is gone, they'll find as much success. But I do believe they'll find success, because one thing they are, and this, a lot of people say both things, but they are smart. Hunter is a smart guy. He loves the business. He's just as passionate as Vince. I don't know if he's just as passionate as Vince, but I'm pretty sure he is. That's my take. Stephanie's a smart lady, and they have a lot of smart people around them. It's not just because Vince is the smartest guy in the world. He's a very smart man, but he has smart people around him too, and Hunter's surrounding himself with people like that as well. So, is it necessarily everybody's cup of tea? No. Is it everybody's environment they want to be in? Certainly not. But once again, the business is continuously changing, constantly. So you have to accept or not. You don't have to accept this. I take this back. The reason I say this, we had a discussion just Sunday night about people saying the business evolves, and someone said no, it doesn't evolve, but it changes, if anything. It's still wrestling. It's still in a ring, but for the times, for the attitudes of the country and the world, let's say, because it's a global brand, they have to have people in touch with what's going on. And I do believe Hunter and Steph are doing everything they can to make sure that happens, that they have people out there who are in touch and they stay relevant. So once Vince is gone, which I have to think that's going to be at least, he's 69. I think he'll be 70 next year. And I think he'll be around in his 80s. He's that kind of guy. He won't. Yeah, he's not going to die. He refuses. He won't let anybody kill him. And he's not going to die on his own. You know, he's got this incredible stamina, and so does Stephanie, so does Hunter. So I really do, even for all the differences I may have or think about them, the one thing I do know is they want what's best for business, even if it's not best for you or anybody else. Because, again, you may not eat at McDonald's every day, but enough people do to keep them number one. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You know, they would have expected Shane to have probably taken over, but with him leaving the company, I mean, obviously the next in line would have been Hunter and Steph. And, yeah, that's kind of the way I was thinking. If which you're right, I don't see Vince stepping down, relinquishing power. He's got more energy and more stamina than people half his age. And, you know, he's just, as he said, well, I don't know if that's the right word to say, but maybe a genetic jackhammer. I don't know if that's a proper term, but he just keeps going. Let's just put it that way.
No, he is. Especially his age. It's amazing to watch, and I haven't been around him lately, and I don't hear everyday results about him either. But people tell me he is still just as much workaholic now as he was then. So
now in 1997, you actually were a part of the beginning stages of the developmental in WWE. Do you think they should have done it sooner than what they did, or do you think it was a perfect timing when they did in 1997 to put that system in place?
What we did, well, actually started in 96. Do you think 96. What we did then? Yeah, what we did then should still be in place? Is that was the question?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I kind of have a bad connection here. That's why I'm asking. Plus I'm about half deaf. Now, okay, but well, once again, I have not seen the Performance Center in person. I've seen pictures of it. It looks great, and the developmental system was a different animal from 96 until 2012 or 2013. Back then, nobody had the keys to the kingdom where you could build your own performance center. It was where you would try and find a territory where guys could work, and WWE would not necessarily supplement the territory, but they would give them a little something. But it was up to that promoter of that territory to run the shows, have a place to train people, and that's where OVW came in, and keep the guys working, get them in shape, and that was the idea. So when I read stuff like, well, there wasn't much of a developmental system before Hunter took over. I'm sorry, you can bleep this out if you want, but I say complete bullshit. It is complete bullshit. There was a developmental system. It was a great developmental system, but now that it's so out there and they actually talk to the wrestling press, whereas before the developmental system wasn't allowed to do a lot of talking, it was kept in the shadows. But now it's such a great thing because it's out in the open. I think that's great. That's fantastic. But don't say one's better than the other until you go ahead and let's see the results of the Performance Center first. The only one to come out of the Performance Center so far is Atlanta, and I'm sure there's going to be more because you have Pac and you have Neville is the name, I'm sorry, and Sami Zayn. You have some of the guys who are very, very good.
Tremendous talent, absolutely.
Yeah, tremendous talent. But the way it was done in '96, could you do it now? Well, yeah, you could. I don't know. I've never in my life have I ever had a match where I've stopped in the middle of the ring and done 1,000 squats. I've done it after the match. When I'm training for wrestling, I prefer doing wrestling drills. I prefer doing something that's going to apply when I'm in a match. So that's just my way of training. I would prefer more wrestling. If you're going to do squats, you're going to do blow-up drills, okay, there's a place for them. Maybe an hour, maybe. But spend the rest of the meat of your training on wrestling and have matches and have practice. That's what we did in 96 through 2012, and it's now more of a corporation. It's always been a corporation, but it's now more corporate wrestling, and that's great for the bottom line. Like I said, you may not like McDonald's, but there's enough people who do that they'll sell their 3 million hamburgers or whatever it is today. I don't know. And not everybody cares for the WWE way of doing things, but there's enough people who do where they'll say, okay. Now, once again, I don't know how they're doing on the network numbers. I think the number was they needed at least 1 million to break even, and they don't want to just break even. They want to make a profit. So that's another issue going on. The NXT was going to be the darling of the WWE network, and they do have a great show, but you have to remember that's 1 hour, and then they get on the main roster and have to find a place on Raw and SmackDown, which are 3 and 2 hours. So it's a whole different animal, and they're trying to make them as comfortable and as used to the WWE way of doing things, like, I guess, the schedule, the TV, the environment, and it's the same thing we've done all along, but now since everybody knows about it, it's such a great revelation that they're doing all these great things when nobody knows that's what we've been doing the whole time, just in a different element, in a different environment. No, not environment. Yeah, environment, pardon me. The same element, I guess, with getting ready and smartening people up. So.
Now, Dr. Tom.
Well, I mean, what I mean by, real quick, what I mean by smartening people up is the crew, the guys, smartening them up to what not to do and what to do on the road, and how to present yourself and how to act. So.
Okay. My question was going to be in terms of being the head trainer. I know you saw a lot of talent come in and out. I was listening to the Jim Ross show the other week, and he was speaking with AJ Styles, and he was talking about his position as head of talent relations, and he was like, that was one of his big misses was AJ Styles. Was there ever someone that you trained that you said, I don't think he's got it or I don't think she's got it, and then they ended up surprising you?
Oh, a lot of people surprised me. A lot, man. I think Trent Beretta is one of the guys that kind of comes to mind, who's making his name right now. I think I just saw something on him in China, but going worldwide on his own. Trent Beretta is one of those guys that always, from day one, I believed and thought he was a very, very good talent. Great talent, actually. And he pretty much showed everybody that their loss is going to be somebody else's gain. Ryan Nemeth, Dolph Ziggler's brother, I thought was a tremendous talent backstage and in the ring as well. He just needed a little more seasoning, I think. E. Carter the third.
EC3. Yeah.
EC3. Yeah. He was another guy that Michael Hutter. Man, there were a couple guys that they let go because the other guy, who was over developmental, I guess the developmental manager, and whoever else made those decisions at the time, just felt they weren't up to par. But yeah, and AJ was another guy, as JR said, slipped through the cracks. And there's guys that have done that, So Bobby Roode is another guy I was very, very high on when he tried out with us. And, man, sometimes you have an explanation, and other times you just kind of shake your head and say, are you kidding me? And that's what I did a few times. A lot of names that went through, man. And then you had other guys who they would push and push and push, and you're looking at them and going, you got to be kidding me, right? But that's the way it works these days, man. It's not necessarily up to me, and it certainly wasn't up to a lot of us. So.
Well, there were a couple of guys. You mentioned EC3, but also I thought Elijah Burke, he really flourished in TNA where he didn't in WWE.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, there you go. I mean, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You don't know if you slighted somebody without knowing you slighted somebody. This is just kind of a random story, but this is actually very true. I can't mention names, but there happened to be a top guy in the ring while one of our developmental ring announcers was at ringside, and someone told this lady a joke had nothing to do with the match, but she was laughing at the guy's joke at ringside. And this top talent happened to see her laugh or smile. It might have been just a smile. Whatever it was so ridiculous that he was pissed off. Came back to the dressing room, and the next week she was fired, gone from developmental. And word got back down to us, that's why. Now, you would think something like that could never happen. Well, it happened.
I'd be surprised.
No, don't be surprised, because just crazy stuff like that. And then you hear things, and you go, wow, okay. But that's how it happens. You don't know. With Elijah, he could have not said something or said something to the wrong guy, wrong time. I mean, you don't know. But you can't hang your hat on politics the whole way, man. But you do have to understand it is a game, and you are in a Shark Tank, and you're around people who would stab their mother, walk over her dead body to get your spot. That's the way it works.
No doubt.
Yeah.
You know, I actually want to say, before we go ahead and let you go, are there any appearances you're going to be making anytime soon if the fans want to keep up with what you're doing as far as next time you're going to appear? How can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, man. Well, I'm on Facebook at, I think it's Tom Prichard or Dr. Tom Prichard. Tom Prichard, I think that. And then, of course, I'm going to be, we have a Jim Cornette roast coming up. I'm just looking at the date right now because it's terrible with dates, man. It's WrestleCade. It's on, November 28th. November 28th is Jim Cornette roast at the Winston-Salem Marriott. Yeah, and then the 29th is WrestleCade. I'm working a match with, against Rock and Roll Express, the Steiner Brothers, and Barbarian. Nice. Yeah, and Tim Blaze, someone like that too. I'm also, and I've got a couple shows. I mean, I'm staying pretty busy, which I'm very, very happy for, and just kind of hanging out. But WrestleCade is the next big thing, and after that, I've just got some. We're working on Southeastern Championship Wrestling here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Man, it's the problem, real quick, and then I'll let you guys go.
Yeah.
The problem with wrestling today is there's good independent talent out there, but there's more bad than there is good because nobody has been told why this looks bad. Everybody wants to just go out and do wrestling matches, and they don't have a clue why they're doing these spots. They're not even having wrestling matches; they're having spot fest. So Southeastern Championship Wrestling is starting up here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Actually, they've been here since June, so it's over 6 months, I guess, or about 6 months. And I'm trying to help those guys out as well, but it's kind of a catch-22. Steven Spielberg can't put on an Academy Award movie with high school play, so you have to look at what's out there, and you have to find the great talent or some of the best talent out there and bring them in. But other than that, with helping some of the guys and around Tennessee, I'm just kind of hanging out and doing appearances whenever somebody calls me up. So
okay.
That's it.
And just on behalf of myself and Austin and Nate, we can't thank you enough for sitting down and just taking us through the life stories, what you've been through, what you've seen, what you continue to do. I mean, no doubt you and your brother, both bona fide Hall of Famers, even if WWE doesn't acknowledge it, I'm sure there are other Hall of Famers that will. I mean, you guys definitely paved the way, did a lot of good for the wrestling business, and as I put in, and I said in the beginning, definitely took part in training some of the best there is out there now, or at least some of the best wrestling champions that have been out there. And we can't thank you enough for sitting down and chatting with us.
Yeah, no problem. I sure appreciate it, guys. Anytime, and good luck with you guys as well. And keep being fans.
We'd love to have you back in the future for sure.
Sure, just let me know.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Dr. Tom. We wish you a very good night, sir.
You got it, guys. Stay warm. See you.
All right. Bye-bye. There you have it, folks. The one and only Doctor of Desire, Dr. Tom Prichard. I don't know if you like me saying that, but Dr. Tom Prichard nonetheless. But definitely an enjoyable conversation. Some things, to learn about the Prichard family, obviously his brother Bruce. I love you. Mr. Brother Love, he was a character. Now, I'd love to get Bruce on one day. I mean, if we got Tom, we could definitely go shoot for Bruce. But that was an enjoyable conversation. Great going down memory lane, definitely talking about colorful characters, you know. I mean, I appreciate, although he did state it clearly that it wasn't really a good time for him when he was paired up with the Body Donnas, but he was honest. He said what he felt, and that's all we can ask, you know.
I mean,
obviously, those of us who read about what happened during the 1990s and the mid-90s knew about some of the issues that had gone on with Skip and Sonny. So, yeah, I mean, I appreciate him telling us at least a little bit about that.
Yeah, I thought it was definitely like a really good interview, but there's a lot that I didn't say or didn't mention because he's one of those guys that you can bring on like Blackjack Mulligan just time after time and still have information to talk about. Listen, he's one of the Blackjacks. I can tell you that already because we're going to probably bring him on, you know, second part, third, fourth, fifth, and into eternity. He is great. Love him.
Yeah, you know, and he was very willing to work, and I'm glad I was able to set this up. I mean, I've been working on, you know, I've been talking with Dr. Tom for almost 2 months now, so I'm just glad that he was willing to take time out of his busy schedule. And you know that the fact that he's not in WWE and he's as busy as he is now, that's a tribute to the kind of character, the kind of man he is, and the notoriety that he brings to an organization.
Yeah, the knowledge is what the one thing that I'm the most impressed by. And Austin's right, man. Like, we talked for 45 minutes and we barely scratched the surface. So he's definitely somebody that I'd love to talk to again, just because of all the things he's seen, all the people he's trained, man, and he's still going. That's the remarkable thing about it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like one of those interviews where you end the conversation, but some guys who interview wrestlers they just talk and try to get everything down the middle and just lay down everything that in history that they've ever done, every single footstep they've walked. But it's good when you have a to be continued interview because there's more that can be learned in the future.
Absolutely. I mean, he really talked about the Texas wrestling families and working with Paul Bosch and. I listened to the interview. I think Bruce did an interview with Jim Ross. Was it Jim or was it Steve? I can't remember who he did one. He did it with one of those guys, and he was talking about his upbringing in the wrestling business too. So yeah, this is definitely not all she wrote, and we can definitely have we definitely talking about the times of during the Attitude Era to working all the way through the New Generation, or I should say the Ruthless Aggression Era. And then all the way, I guess, as they called it, the PG era.
Wait a minute. I just realized something, Felix. You just mentioned.
Lord, here we go.
You just mentioned All She Wrote, and what's funny about that, this Sunday night is Survivor Series.
Oh, here we go.
And All She Wrote is done. I mean, for Cena's team Cena Survivor Series, that's literally All She Wrote after it's all said and done. Sayonara.
You know what'll be All She Wrote is the fact that we won't have to deal with Austin anymore after Sunday.
And I'll say it again.
Said he would actually put his job up on the line.
Yeah, but I said it once and I'll say it again. If Team Cena wins at Survivor Series, I'm out of here. And you know what? I'll be fine with that because people like Nate and Milton and Felix, if you were on with them for how long it is, you'll never. There's a lot of situations that you would want to do if you're on here, but I mean they're not that bad. But I mean, within the grand.
What do you guys think about the different twists and turns that they did for the teams? I mean, you start Raw, you have Sheamus on the team. You end Raw, you got Eric Rowan, and now Ryback.
Mhm. Well, I mean, it was so many different twists and turns, and it's kind of I don't understand their reasonings on a couple things. I mean, I know isn't it 5-on-5? That's what it's always done. Yeah, and Antonio Cesaro makes number 6 on Team Authority, which I believe it's. I mean, on Team Authority you got Rusev, you got Mark Henry, you have Luke Harper. Who else? I'm trying to think of everybody who's on the team. Seth Rollins.
And Kane.
And Kane. And you also have Antonio Cesaro, which makes number 6. So I don't know if it's 6-on-6 because, I mean, Team Cena only has 5, which is good because, hey, the more the merrier, especially around Christmas time.
What will happen is one of the Authority's teammates will probably get taken out, and it'll make it an even 5-on-5. I don't see them adding another one. It would not make any sense to do it a 6-on-6. I think what happens is before the weekend is over, on SmackDown more than likely, we'll see one of the Authority team members get taken out, and Cesaro will fill that spot for that team. So there will be our 5-on-5. Yet this is still not giving me a feel of an actual Survivor Series type atmosphere. I mean, some people want to compare this All or Nothing showdown to 2001 when WWE took on the Alliance. What do you guys think about that?
Not even close. And the Alliance was something that it should have been better than it was, but I still think that match felt bigger than this match. And part of the reason I think it is because there's been so many last-minute additions. Like with the Alliance, we pretty much knew who the teams were 2 or 3 weeks ahead. But with this match, like, we get Ryback at the last minute, which is cool because, you know, he adds to that team. But Eric Rowan, to me, is just like, why? Why? I understand you want to have the counterpart to Luke Harper, but Eric Rowan has done nothing to deserve to be on this team of main eventers.
It makes no sense to me either because he comes out acting like he wants to strangle Luke Harper, but they've done nothing to each other. Like, well, I mean, I know how Bray Wyatt basically set him free out into the crazy world.
That doesn't even make sense why he did that either.
Yeah, because it comes up and he's running and you hear Eric Rowan's music, which is the same music as Luke Harper, and you just see him pointing at Luke Harper like he hates him so much and he wants to strangle him like I want to do to. That's another story. But I mean, it's weird to me. It's really weird to me. I have no clue what the direction is towards this, but I think it's still nonetheless going to be a great show.
Honestly, I think that Vince is really just, you know, he was not seeing anything out of this, out of the Wyatt family, so he figured 2 big men, I could put them to use, 1 good guy, 1 bad guy, let's do it. Because they're running short on talent. Their talent is extremely thin, and that's a topic I wanted to bring out with Dr. Tom on how the difference between the locker room of the late 1990s to the locker room today. What would be the big difference? I would see that, like he said, and I think he even made that clear at one point or another, that some would even cut your throat or cut your mom's throat and step over her dead body just to get to your spot. And that's how hungry they were. They were all going for the number 1 spot. And now, nobody gives a damn. The titles don't mean nothing. Nobody cares. No storylines really get any time to really develop. And matches just get thrown together out of a whim.
And there's one guy on...
I don't know.
There's one guy on this roster that feels, well, there's a couple guys that feel fresh and they're not being used in this match. And one is Ambrose, but he's got to deal with Wyatt. So I'm like, okay, I want to see how that plays out. But the other guy who would have been better than Ryback or Eric Rowan, in my opinion, is Randy Orton.
Well, I think that came as bad timing to have him taken out to be filming a movie. I mean, I've been hearing rumors that Randy's been looking to take some time off. I don't know how true they are, but, I mean, he's one of their biggest stars right now, and he's definitely in his prime to be taken out. I would still think that you would see Randy make an appearance, just as I think you would see Brock Lesnar make one, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, hey, Felix, never say never, just like Justin Bieber says. And I'm going to say Brock Lesnar is going to be, he's going to be at Survivor Series this Sunday, and he's going to be looking over the Authority's back because Team Cena, hey, Brock wants Cena. I mean, he's had him. He's had his back quite a few times. I mean, he's been on the ground, splattered, everywhere across SummerSlam, and Night of Champions as well. Meaning how many suplexes that guy's taken in the past 6 months. It's going to happen. One way or the other, Brock versus Cena is going to happen, and Brock Lesnar is going to be at Survivor Series this Sunday just to be that guy that's in the shadow looking over the Authority's back just for that, just to do. That's what's going to happen because Team Cena is going down. Whether you like it or not, it's happening. Authority's going to win. My pick.
You know what? After what happened Monday night, I don't even think Stephanie and Triple H really believe that anymore either. And then Austin will be left with his jaw on the ground, and he'll be like, how do I get my foot out of my mouth? Should I come back on air? I don't know. Okay, anyways, moving on.
He'll come back next week under a mask.
He'll be like, oh, it's not Austin. This is Mr. America, or something like that. Captain
Y'all are comedians. Ha ha. Well, it's really funny. It's really funny how you guys are You guys are, thinking of me that way, but I mean, it's science. It's basically the highest powers they have on the authority. I mean, look at Rusev. Rusev's undefeated. Do you think he's going to let his own team, Survivor Series, even though he has a couple enemies that he's faced off in the past, let that down? Trust me, it's not going to happen. They are.
For Stephanie to call Lana a Russian twit, I'm pretty sure. Yeah,
twit,
she was like, you know what?
No.
She called Lana a Russian twit.
No, I never called Lana a Russian twit.
I said Stephanie.
Stephanie McMahon.
I said for Stephanie to call Lana a Russian twit, and then for them to see that the odds are not in their favor, and then for them to walk and claim that's not an actual loss to them, that they didn't get pinned, I could see that happening. Seriously.
No.
It'd be the downfall of the authority.
I'm telling you this.
Whether you like
I'm
to believe it or not.
I'm going to say it. No, I'm going to say it. Yeah, I have on good authority to say that the authority paid every single guy on that team good money to perform this Sunday show. And why any less than that? They would. What would you expect?
Well, just keep telling yourself that, and then we'll see when we have the Survivor Series, and there's no Austin next Tuesday night. We'll know why.
Oh.
Did we quiet him up? Is he quiet for a change?
I'm not quiet. I have a lot to say, but less means more, right? Less means more.
Just don't bring up the word Justin Bieber on a wrestling show ever again. He has no business being mentioned on a wrestling show.
I almost went Booker T on her. Like, tell me he just didn't say that.
But my goodness gracious. Moving on real quick, we're going to change the channel for a moment and talk about who we'll have on the show next Tuesday night. He's actually coming from the Lucha Underground. Who is it, Austin?
Yeah, next week on the show, we're actually having on Lucha Underground Superstar, Pro Wrestling Superstar. I mean, this guy's been around, a while. I mean, this independent wrestling thing, Ring of Honor. He's a former Ring of Honor Tag Team Champion. He is Ricky. I probably butcher your last name, but I believe it's Ricky Reyes. Ricky Reyes. I mean, I've always said Ricky Reyes for some reason throughout his career, but I mean, I guess it's Ricky Reyes. But he's going to show next week, and then Lucha Underground has been the past 3 weeks has been on. It's been great. It's a perfect mix of that kind of, I can't really describe it. It's more like a kind of a soap opera-ish feeling, but at the same time they have a very perfect amount of wrestling mixed into it. So it's
it's like a Robert Rodriguez movie type feel to it. If you've ever seen any of his movies, whether you think about From Dusk Till Dawn or any of those other type of movies he's done, that's the only one that I think of because that's one of my favorites. But it gives you that weird, that different feel that it's not an actual wrestling show, but it is. Gives you a little bit of everything, and then with this new guy, the boss, the head honcho, Dario Cueto, however you want to call him.
Love him.
Do you think he could be the Mexican version of Vince McMahon?
Absolutely.
Let me tell you. At first, before I even saw the show, and somebody was like, this guy Dario Cueto, he's like a Mexican Vince, man, and he's like I already hated it because I was just like, I'm tired of authority figures. But then I actually watched the show, and I'm like, man, he is really, really good. Even though the heel owner is a tired concept, he plays the heck out of that part.
He does. He does, definitely. Kudos to him.
Ricky's actually
and they're just in their
guys,
infancy right now, so I'm sure big things are to come.
Ricky's working for him with Conan. With that, it's like there's a little team on Lucha Underground. I'm not sure if it's a team. It's more like a kind of a group, a faction with Big Ricky Reyes, and there's another guy. I'm not too familiar with his name. They changed these wrestlers' names up a little bit. I mean, I don't think Ricky Reyes' name is the same name he uses on Lucha Underground. I believe it's Cortez, something Cortez. But it's like they have this little faction that took out John Morrison, who goes as the name Johnny Mundo. A couple weeks ago on the first episode of Lucha Underground, for no reason, we still haven't. Cortez what?
Cortez Castro.
Cortez Castro, and they took out Johnny Mundo, the first episode of Lucha Underground, after he won the tournament for I believe it was $1 million that he was going to win, and then the owner of Lucha Underground, Dario Cueto, I can't even say Mexican way.
Dario Cueto.
Let's say what Felix just said. And Dario comes out and says, you basically can't have it. You're not having my money. It was supposed to go to Prince Puma because that's her guy. But then Big Rick came out, who was actually a guest on Nacho Mano's radio show a couple weeks ago, came out and attacked him. Then Cortez Castro came out and attacked him. Then another guy came out and attacked him. So we have this little faction here that I'm really interested in knowing what's the deal. What's the reason why? He had no reason. I mean, I'm guessing because he's working with Dario.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, they've got some tremendous talent, and you know, speaking of that, when I see these guys, it brings me back to thinking about Rey Mysterio, because I really feel he had so much energy and love for what he did. I really feel like now he's completely burnt out, and the desire's not there anymore. And I really think that I don't see him retiring completely, but I do see him leaving the business as far as WWE goes, and maybe appearing in AAA or even Lucha Underground with Chavo, because it allows him to do other things. But, I mean, just for that matter, too, we're going to see a lot more masked superstars. And, you know, I did a little research on Mil Muertes, and I did not realize this, but he actually played Judas Macias in TNA as Abyss's brother.
That's Judas? That is
Judas Macias.
You're kidding. I had no clue. I should have done some research as well. Well, you know, Mil Muertes is actually escorted by, and she looks good. Katrina.
A lot better than they ever made her look in WWE.
Yeah, well, she has a lot to offer. She's awesome. I thought she was just the badass diva that could have done so much in WWE, but I believe she walked out of the company. Or they might have released her. I'm not entirely sure, but which way, she's awesome. I love her. And she has that.
She kind of gives you that impression she's like a Black Widow, and with a kiss of death.
She's not
the lick of death.
No, it's not a kiss of death. It's a lick of death. She licks the guy's face off.
I don't know about the face off, but I mean, definitely gives them gets a taste.
Hey, I'm over here.
Well, yeah, going back to Ray, I could definitely see Ray showing up in a promotion like this, because it works on both sides of the border, so to speak, because obviously he's a big star here, but he's probably maybe even a bigger star back in Mexico. And, you know, the rumors are that Del Rio is going to show up for Season 2, and the original Sin Cara will be in Season 2. So I'm like, man, this promotion has a lot of momentum right now, and I hope that they can keep this thing going, and El Rey can get on a bigger platform. That's the only thing holding them back, I think, is that El Rey is not available on
all
so many
stations.
Places. Yeah.
You know, they're not available on. It's very similar to the situation that TNA has gone through over the years. Spike TV is not available in all networks. Therefore, not everybody can actually get access to see it unless they go online and I don't know, get one of those particular channels or websites that offer doctored version of it. I guess I don't want to say doctored, but you can they record it on there and upload it on there for some reason. But that would be the best way to do it. But even then, it takes away from the ratings because they're not actually watching it live. And the same thing could be said about Lucha Underground. It's got a great following in its infancy so far. I see big things coming for it. And if possible, maybe even a move to a different network to get them get more people watching. You know, that's what they definitely need. I mean, go ahead.
No, Lucha Underground is actually on Perfect Network. I believe, you know, El Rey's that new upstart network that I think really carries that feel of Lucha Underground. That if they were to do it, and I know they have to kind of branch out into, you know, kind of a more broader base of you know, channels on TV, because not everybody has. Like I don't have the channel, but I watch it on the internet. You know, every single weekend. So you can find it on YouTube. You know, it's up there. Just search it up. And Lucha Underground has that feel of being something that's that's might be a little now, even though it doesn't feel little with the production value that it has. It's going to be something big within the next few years. That's no doubt in my mind.
You know what could be the future for them in terms of broadcasting, Felix, and I'm looking at the Lucha Underground page right now. They're also broadcasts on Unimas. the American, the broadcasters in Spanish, and apparently that's getting great ratings. Like they at first they wanted to play on the weekends, and then it did so well they put it in prime time. And Unimas is owned by Univision, which is pretty much everywhere. Like we get it out here in Virginia, so I'm pretty sure it's coast to coast.
Absolutely.
So if there was a way, maybe not season 1, of course, maybe not season 2, but if there's a season 3, if that was on a channel like Univision, that would just put that through the roof, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, Univision is global. I would definitely see it's global because I know it's definitely all over the United States. Mexico, they definitely are. They like Japan, they're loyal to their wrestling. And as far as TNA goes, jumping ship over here to another company that desperately needs to get off of Spike because Spike is not going to do anything else for them, is TNA Wrestling. They're done. I read somewhere that they have no plans on having wrestling on their network anymore, and that TNA, the officials, and of course Dixie Carter, have been negotiating with the likes of, I believe, the Discovery Channel, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yes. Wow.
And if that's the case, I mean, Discovery is available it's more available than Spike on more networks and so forth, and more. It's gives them a better audience. But at this point, what's left of that company? They have people that are constantly wondering what's going to happen. Is Vince going to take it over? Is Vince actually running it? The Carters really don't have a clue at this point what they're doing. I mean, I'm not saying anything bad about Dixie. I'm not trying to purposely put her down, but over the last year and a half, you've seen almost everybody leave. Because it's been better for him.
I don't think Vince would want it at this point, Felix. I think that if anything, like really, it's not like WCW that had all this history and the tape library and all that stuff. I think if anything, Vince would just let him die and then come in and pick up, like a Bobby Roode, pick up Austin Aries, some guys like that, and just bring them to WWE.
Yeah.
Well, what I think, honestly, I think it's crazy. The most crazy thing I've ever heard in my life, to put a wrestling show on the Discovery Channel. Reason being, I watch fish. I watch fish on the Discovery Channel. I watch deers. I watch ants in the microscope, 3,000 times or whatever to see ants. I don't watch wrestling on a Discovery Network. That's channel. I don't. It's not something. I mean, if it was on it, I would watch it. But I mean, it makes no sense to put that on the Discovery Channel. It's so taboo. It's like, why are you gonna do that? Might as well put it on another network that's not there's no business of being wrestling on it.
They might as well put it on Ion.
That's perfect. That's actually perfect.
Can I take him to school right quick, Felix? Can I take him to school one time?
Go for it.
My young Padawan, my young friend Austin. You say the Discovery Channel is for animals and things in nature. Well, let's look at TNA's roster. They have the wolves. They have rhinos. Shark Boy. Yeah.
Oh, you're creative. You're good.
Hey, he got you there, though. He's got you there.
I'll give you credit. But, that's actually a good point. It kind of brings me back to Bobby Heenan, his Hall of Fame speech when he was talking about the WWE. He was like, you got all these different these names for wrestlers that was the sheep herders. You have all these guys, and this has nothing to do with what we're talking about. It was funny, Bobby Heenan stuff. It's classic him.
If you've seen his induction speech, it's classic. Talking about the World Wildlife Fund, whatever, and him working with the killer bees, the bulldogs, the snakes, the gators, and he's working with a guy named Gorilla, and he's a weasel. Gotta love it. That's classic Bobby. He's going to be around for a while, and I hope to meet him one day. I really do.
Most definitely.
Yes.
But did you actually mention last week or a few weeks ago, you said that there's any best step shows that are going to be happening after this week's episode? That doesn't look like it's going to happen at this point.
Yeah, they canceled that. They're going to start running movies instead. So the show that airs this week is going to be it on Spike, and it'll be it for TNA unless they get picked up by this other channel.
which is why it looks like Jeff Jarrett may have a little bit more leeway to pull some talent from that company to help, because there was already rumors talking who would help with Jim Ross do the commentary for his what's it called, Wrestle Kingdom?
Yes.
Yes, New Japan.
For New Japan in January. Is obviously JR. That was big news. JR returning to the announce booth, but for some other company, and that is pretty shocking because JR has always been a WWE guy, and that was another topic I wanted to hit on with Dr. Tom, and he compared Jim Ross. I'm sorry, not Jim Ross. He compared Jim Cornette and Heyman, which is a very good comparison. But when it came to commentary, he did not like Southerners doing commentary. If you notice, you didn't see very often Jim Cornette and Jim Ross actually doing commentary, but when they did, it was tremendously done well. I thought it was done very well. But I don't know. I think they had a thing for people who had a Southern accent calling commentary. What do you think?
It's what was it? I was watching the Monday Night Wars, and that was one of the first things when they came in. And WCW was under new management. One of the first things they did was get rid of JR because he was too Southern. And then you flash ahead to after JR had his first bout of Bell's palsy, and Vince took him off commentary because he didn't think he looked the right part of an announcement. It's like, how many times can you pull this guy and jerk this guy around when he's the best? I think anybody out there that's a wrestling fan can say. I mean, there's others that's in the discussion, but for me, he's the best play-by-play man in the history of wrestling, and I'm actually going to watch the Wrestle Kingdom show just for that. And you mentioned, maybe if TNA's not around, how great would it be to have Jim Ross and Mike Tenay call New Japan Wrestling?
That would have been something that has never, ever, ever been done because, Jim Ross worked with Tony Schiavone, Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby Heenan, Randy Savage, Vince, the King, Cole, but never Tenay, and never Scott Hudson. But, it would be interesting to see Tenay definitely keep up with Jim Ross.
I think that'd be a really, really good team because Ross can tell the story, and Tenay's right there with all the, the moves and the backstories of the Japanese guys. I think it'd be really cool.
That could be a good comparison, thinking the fact that Mike Tenay was a very, very similar in his way of calling the action that was that of Gorilla Monsoon, on knowing some of the backstories of some of the people and telling the story as well. I'm curious to see where that's going to go. If they'll actually have somebody work with Jim or not. Jim can do it on his own, or if he wanted to bring in somebody, maybe have Jeff sit in there and do it with him. But Jeff actually probably be on the card, if I'm not mistaken. What's that?
I'm sorry.
I didn't hear I was just listening to what you were saying.
Oh, no, I thought Nate was speaking. I was like,
I was saying Jeff was going to be there with the Bullet Club, but go ahead, Austin.
But I was mentioning, actually, I don't know if you guys actually had a chance to watch last night, but the first 30 minutes of the new Macho Man Randy Savage DVD that actually was released today was shown on the WWE Network, the first look, for free, which I don't know how I feel about that, considering I don't think it should have been for free. Being, Macho Man Randy Savage, that's, the legend. But nonetheless, watching the first 30 minutes
of it,
is
trying to get more subscribers. That's all it is.
Oh, yeah, I know
right.
that, no doubt. But, it was
really
good.
It should not have been given out for free, but this is their way to bait more people in, with the Survivor Series, their big, huge build-up they're doing, and all these things that they're doing for free. True, an occasion like that, they're just trying to bring more attention to themselves because they don't have any other way to do it. People have been high on the idea of Randy Savage being recognized, if anything, at all, since his death in 2011, and then WWE's reconciliation with Lanny. At this point, one thing that I have to make mention is that when people approach Lanny, you got to keep in mind about something. Lanny is old school. He's brought up old school. His mentality is old school. His stories are old school. And if you come straight out and ask him, so do you think Randy's ever going to get inducted in? Do you think he's going to tell you? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That's something that they're going to keep. They still keep those kind of things secret. You know, and that's when I think about people when they talk to The Undertaker or anybody else and ask them questions and literally expect them to answer the truth. Are you serious? Do you not realize who you're talking to? They're going to come around, oh, yes, you know, they're going to be inducted on this time, and I'm going to retire this time. And come on, people, get real. And that's what I'm saying. When we asked Lanny, of course I'm going to expect him to say, don't expect it. But for now, speculation is running rampant that Randy could be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Will it happen? I'll say I will believe it when I see it. Until then, let the speculation run.
You know, speaking of speculation, every single week on Nacho radio show, I mean, we've been hearing, I mean, all the stuff they've been doing in the past weeks has been amazing, but they don't want to give us any, you know, inclination of what exactly they're doing. Do you have any insight on this? Because I know you're hand in hand with your Nacho radio show on Thursday nights. What's going on with them this Thursday night?
Well, at this point, I mean, I'm still not 100% sure. I know they're doing their wellness program that they're trying to work with. That, like I think I've mentioned on here before. After the death of Sean O'Hare, it kind of really hit home for the guys, and they really started to get to work on an idea, an initiative to get started to where they have some place to go when they start feeling these kind of feelings, or just, you know, if they're depressed or need help or whatever. And they got together with a psychiatrist to do this, and I think that they might have even pitched the idea to WWE for past talent to get together with them, and I don't know exactly what's going on. I know they've got appearances coming up. There's a good chance you might actually see them at WrestleMania. You know, I don't know for sure. You know, like I said, if you've seen the pictures on Facebook, they ran into Triple H at the Sports Legacy Institute only because he is a board member. But, yes, they were at WWE headquarters in Stamford, and they were also met with the Ring of Honor authorities, I believe even because I believe Nana's, he works backstage more now than he used to, about making appearances for Ring of Honor, for Oscar and Mo. And, you know, true, maybe not everybody will remember them, but believe it or not, a lot more people will remember them than you think. These guys definitely were innovators for their time, doing things that weren't done before. They hadn't been done at that point. I mean, if you really want to think about PN News, please don't.
Yeah, I mean, Oscar was one of the first rappers to actually, you know, sing out to the ring. He was one of the first guys to do it. And I can just imagine if I was, you know, in that time, me and him would have made the most fantastic, just rappers of all time. The Fantastic Rappers, that would have been our name. And we would be rapping and zapping the guns, you know, and clipping and clapping.
I'll be sure to pass that along to Oscar, talking about you and him rapping and zapping.
Rapping and zapping.
Hashtag rapping and zapping. There you go, folks. Yeah. But, no, you know, I will say this, that no date has been planned just yet, but in December we are planning to do a crossover, whether it be, like I said, there's no date that's been decided yet, but we'll have a crossover show where Pipebomb will crash the Not Your Mama's radio show set and just have fun. Maybe we'll have surprises, surprise guests. Maybe we won't. But I can tell you it's going to be chaotic, but chaotic in a good way. Yes. And I think that'll be a good holiday treat for everybody.
Treat.
What was that, a Homer Simpson impression?
No, I don't watch The Simpsons, but I will watch Survivor Series this Sunday night on the WWE Network for free. But I mean, I have the.
You can't say $9.99.
But one thing I'm going to be subscribing to is when the Authority comes out with their new magazine.
Here we go.
You know, it's bound to happen after they win against Team Cena. But you know, so one more rundown. Team Cena has on their team. They have, you know, John Cena. And they have, I'm trying to remember all the teamers, the Big Show, Sheamus, Dolph Ziggler. No, wasn't Sheamus sideline, or did he come back? I think he came back out.
That's why we got Eric Rowan.
Oh, yeah, Eric Rowan, perfect. They replaced the guy with the orange beard with the guy with the orange hair. I mean, it makes sense. And
you have to
those guys against
something, too, after you're done.
Huh?
No, I was just going to mention that I watched the Monday Night War segment this week as far as the Divas Gone Wild or whatever. And it definitely, I was very pleased with this portion of it because it touched on all the divas. Not one, not the other, not one more so than the other, even though they say Sable was the biggest one that came out of that era, which I beg to differ, but some may disagree with me. You know, you had women like Sunny, you had Chyna, you had Lita, you had Trish, you had Terry, you know, you had Molly. My goodness, there were so many of them. And they acknowledged every one of them, including Chyna, and it wasn't in a bad way. You know, she was definitely one of the women that paved the way for women today, because they can be powerful and beautiful. And, you know, I was very proud, very happy with that, very pleased with that. I just had to mention that because, like I mentioned before on other shows, Austin and myself, we do keep in contact with Chyna from time to time.
Well, I mean, it could be argued that during her peak, like from the DX time to when she was the women's champion, like she was the most over woman that there had been. You know, she was more over than Sable, more over than, you know, Wendy Richter. I think maybe following her, you know, Trish was a little more over, but up until that point, man, she legitimately was, you know, the biggest female star for a while.
Absolutely.
Well, the thing is about Chyna, she was one of those people that transcended something that nobody's ever seen. There will never be another Chyna because of just her presence and how her body just was. That just I can't explain it. It's when you you don't have any words to explain how cool something was. It's really cool. And Chyna was, I really dig her. I mean, she's awesome. And today, the person she is today is, I mean, so very, very peaceful, you know, and she has her own place in Japan, and she's just doing great.
You remember when WCW tried to make their own Chyna?
I do remember there was a blonde, a muscular chick, and then I believe wasn't her name Asia?
Her name was Asia. Come on, man.
They didn't rip that off. They didn't rip it off at all. They were trying to do something different, right? A continent, not just a place.
Right.
The continent, Asia. She must have been big.
Not that big, but, you know, they talk about it. If you guys haven't checked it out, definitely check it out tonight. I believe it's going to be on the WWE Network tonight. They talk about the infamous job that Alundra Blaze Medusa did when dropping the Divas title, women's title, in the trash, which basically blackballed her from any recognized ever. I mean, that was the ultimate slap in the face, disrespectful thing that she's ever done, and I don't even think she meant to do it.
No, apparently, you know, that was a Bischoff thing, and it's like, how are you going to tell your new boss, no, I'm not going to do that when you're under contract? So, I mean, she was in a no-win situation, but I think that, you know, she is somebody that doesn't get a lot of credit, and it's because the WWE's kind of erased her out of history, but she deserves to go in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion.
Definitely, I would like to, and not saying that I wanted to say one more over than the other, but to be honest, rather than seeing Lita and Trish at this time, I would have liked to have seen a Bull Nakano, Bertha Faye, Alundra Blaze, all get recognition because whether you like to admit that they were valid or not, Bull Nakano is a Japanese legend. You know, Ronda Singh, which is what her name is, I mean, she was more seriously taken in other wrestling organizations than they ever treated her in WWE and, for that matter, WCW. She was a joke. And that's the reason why that she won't
get recognition. You think of these people, and they've definitely had a marked history in professional wrestling, like the Bull Nakanos. But people like Trish Stratus and Lita really made that time in the late '90s a time that people remember.
I'm not taking nothing away from them, but I believe that their time should have come a little bit later down the line. Some people are given the Hall of Fame a little too soon. Because in reality, does it going to matter if they get it now? If that were the case, when Hogan got the induction, why didn't Savage? Hogan and Savage were running neck and neck for years. Did HBK really need to get put in the year after he retired? Same thing with Edge? I mean, no, come on, think about it. This is Vince's Hall of Fame. This is not an actual Hall of Fame.
I think they deserve it. I mean, I don't think they have to be like 67 years old in order to be in the Hall of Fame. I think their accomplishments speak for themselves. A person like Edge,
I'm not going to take nothing away from him, though.
I mean, he's had every single title in WWE.
and I'm not going to deny that. Shawn was definitely one of the greatest of all time, and I'm not going to say he wasn't, because it's just all the accomplishments speak for itself. Same thing with Edge. I was more of a fan of Christian personally, but Edge definitely surpassed everybody's expectations and definitely did something for himself. But to be honest, it was too soon. And seeing Steve Austin go in 2009, it was sad. Not that I didn't want to see it happen, because I did, but because of the fact that I was such a fan of his career, going from way back into the early 90s to all the way through to revolutionizing the Attitude Era as he did. But you really seen like it truly was the end of an era, and that was a hard part to watch, because he was such a hero to so many people during the late 1990s, and how electric he brought. When he came into an arena, you felt it. I've been in those arenas during those times, and it was electric, let me tell you.
I've been a part of Steve Austin's entrance at WrestleMania 30. When you didn't expect it, you knew he was going to be there. You knew he was going to be at WrestleMania 30, but you didn't know what parties would come out in, and you're just focusing on Hulk Hogan. This is actually my view of things when I was in WrestleMania 30 at Superdome. You're focusing on Hulk Hogan. All of a sudden you hear Stone Cold Steve Austin's music just hit. I'm like, oh my God, that is the greatest feeling of all time. And then 5 minutes later you hear the Rock's music. That's the most perfect thing I've ever felt in my entire life. I'll never be a part of that. That feeling is just, you've been a part of it. I'm sure you guys have been a part of that type of feeling before, but it's something that's indescribable. But
it is, you're right.
The Hall of Fame. Who do you guys think top 3? Who do you think is going to be in the Hall of Fame in 2015, Nate?
2015, let's see. Obviously, we all want to see Macho in there, in the Popo family, if possible. So that'd be number 1 on my list. Let's see. There's so many guys that over the years.
There's still so many that need the credibility that are not getting it.
Because I think some part of the problem, and Felix touched on it, is you're getting a lot of guys from the Attitude Era or from the late 90s, early 2000s going in already, and it's like, no, it's too early for you, Lita. It's too early for you, Trish. It was even too early. As much as I love Booker T, I think it was too early for Booker T.
Yeah. Understood.
So
let's
see.
I thought we lost you there, buddy.
I think I'm going to go with, well, hello?
Oh, no, we got you. I thought I lost you there for a second because it went silent for a second. Go ahead. We got you, man.
I think I'll just make mine a wish list of people that probably won't get in, but I'd love to see them. 1 would be Macho Man and the Papa family, of course. 2 would be Alundra Blaze, which is probably not going to happen. At least not for a long time. Maybe not until Vince is gone. And then 3, you know what? They've already done the Razor Ramon induction. I think, since we're doing the Attitude Era and we're doing all the Monday Night War stuff, maybe it's time for an induction that would just be too sweet.
The NWO?
New World Order, including Bischoff.
Why not? That'd be actually a good idea to have Bischoff acknowledged. He was a huge part of it. But then that would give another induction to guys like a Hogan or guys like a Kurt Hennig or DiBiase, who were also in it as well.
I think you have to cut it off. You have to make the cutoff like Virgil. I'm sorry, brother.
wrestling superstar Virgil. Remember that. But I don't know how that would be. Multiplicated. What is it called? I don't know how that would. I don't know how that would turn out. Because there's so many members of the NWO.
They were still talking about doing DX too, if you remember.
Well, I'm saying about NWO. There's so many members of the NWO. I can just see the ego boost of the guys who were there, but people didn't really notice them. There was hundreds of members of the NWO. It seemed. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, I'm a part of the Hall of Fame. Yeah, I wasn't on the stage or anything. I didn't get a ring, but I'm a part of it.
Well, if DiBiase was a part of going to be acknowledged for the NWO, then Virgil has to be there too. Come on now, they were a tag team. They were a married couple for years and years.
Right. So, Felix, who do you want to be in the Hall of Fame?
I don't think anybody would really want to
2015?
acknowledge Virgil because, really, I mean, he wasn't really all that relevant to begin with.
What do you mean? He's a wrestling superstar. Damn it.
Okay. Well, let's just put it this way. I would rather have them acknowledge Buff Bagwell than Virgil.
David Arquette, Hall of Fame, 2015. David Arquette, man.
Are you
World
kidding me?
Champion. World heavyweight champion.
Is that this? So this is your picks?
Oh, I'm actually going to say my picks right now. No particular order, actually. Obviously, Mushman is going to be in the list, but besides him, Ivan Koloff. He was the first guy to beat Bruno Sammartino for that title, and I think it was 7 years. After he held it for
he ended
his
title reign. We'll just say that.
Yeah, Ivan Koloff. Number 2 would have to be. Number 2 would probably have to be. Oh, it's too difficult. Actually, come back to me. I'll say 2 and 3 later. I can't.
See, it's not that easy, is
actually, it? Dean Malenko, and I don't care what anybody says. He's one of the best wrestlers in of all time. And
you don't think
I know
it's too soon for him? You don't think it's too soon for Dean yet? Because Dean, if he was asked to go, he could still go. I think he could.
He could. Dana Bryan's even said it. He's helped Dana Bryan, in different techniques and everything. And just even recently, before WrestleMania, he was helping him out. And he said he's still that same body frame type of guy who can just do anything he wants. But Dean Malenko would definitely have to be in there. Another guy would have to be The Rock. It's been, I think they should have done it a few years ago, but since they're in Miami.
Rock?
The Rock. That's most definitely. The Rock is one of the best of all time. I love The Rock.
No, I'm not saying he's not the greatest, but come on. He's still considered almost an active competitor. He still comes back and wrestles every 2 years. But well, I don't know. Some people would probably say it's time. Some people say it's not yet time. But there are so many people. There are so many people that are that have not been acknowledged that need to be acknowledged. You think of guys like the Freebirds. Why weren't they? Michael P.S. Hayes. Why hasn't he been acknowledged all these years?
Yeah, definitely him. They were thinking about doing it last.
Think of Fit Finley, William Regal. Just to name a few.
Most definitely. But they were thinking about doing the Freebirds this past year. At the New Orleans, and they even thought about doing it in 27 when they were in Georgia. I think it would have been best in Georgia or at least Texas, But it's long overdue. Long overdue.
Yeah, I can, and if I were to go with my 3, obviously, I you know what? As much as I would love to see Undertaker, it's not going to happen anytime soon. He's definitely could have his own wing, but obviously Randy's in there. If I threw in, I just had a few names thinking off the top of my head. What I would like to see, and hopefully this brings some calmness and into a very, very dark situation, but Owen Hart, the Bulldog, Ivan Koloff, Sting. The Sting is talking about wrestling one more time. Why not give him his match and acknowledge him in the Hall of Fame as being, really, he was the franchise. He was the face of WCW. No one can deny that. Those are just a couple of names. There's just so many more. And you know what? I will even go out on a limb and say our former guest last week should be given credit because he's one of the ones that paved the way. Tugboat Taylor. Why not give him acknowledgement? Why not? But that's just, we're looking at it as fans, obviously, who we would like to see. Are we the decision makers? Ultimately, no. Ultimately, that's going to be Vince's decision. We all know that. What I would like to see happen next year, because I know they're building this to be really huge, is the New England Fan Fest out in Rhode Island. That is looking to be probably one of the biggest events of that area right after WrestleMania, only a few months afterwards. We had some of the biggest names mentioned on there. They revealed a few others who were going to be there, but Jim Cornette, Jim Ross, Eric Bischoff, Tully Blanchard, J.J. Dillon, Bobby Heenan, Mean Gene Okerlund. The list goes on and on and on of people you can meet at this place. We had the guy in charge, Joe Bruin, on the show last Thursday, who revealed a few people that were going to be there. But I mean, obviously, men on a Mission are going to be there. Oscar and Mo are going to be there.
It sounds like a good time. But for the future in Pipebomb Radio, I know definitely in the next coming weeks, we have a really, he's confirmed to the nth degree. He's definitely coming on. I'm not going to mention any names, but once you hear who it is, you're going to love it. I can say he's been on.
Are you talking to December?
Yes, December. He's been on a couple times beforehand, but when he was on it was on like Donkey Kong, basically. Like the kids say these days. It's probably one of them. I can't explain how much interaction was on that show. It's probably the most listened to show in Pipebomb Radio history is when this guy comes on.
Of course. And then we have a few names that definitely are still relevant to this day. Let's just say December is lining up to be a great show, not only for Pipebomb Radio, but also for Thursday's Not Your Mama's radio show. They've got some surprises in store, and hey, I told you we're gonna end 2014 with a bang, and I wasn't lying. With that, we will go ahead and bring things to a close, unless other things need to be addressed. Would you guys anything else we need to bring up? Okay. Well then, judging by the silence there, what's that?
Hey, social media. It's actually a cool story that the aliens who are on Mars, Jupiter, whatever, they actually listen to Pipebomb Radio because it's available universally. Wherever you are standing right now, if you're on your bicycle, riding in this cold temperature, wherever you're at, it's available. Pipebombradio.com.net. I believe it's .net.
Don't screw up my website, gummit.
Yeah, Pipebombradio.net is where you can catch all the past episodes of some of the greatest people we've had on. Blackjack Mulligan, Kevin Von Erich, Tito Santana, Dr. Tom Prichard is going to be uploaded tonight. So many guys have been on the show. So many legends have been on the show. A to Z. They've been on. It's great, and you can just check out all those episodes in the past on
We also want to send out
Pipebombradio.net.
our prayers to Kamala as well, as this wrestling legend was put in the hospital just recently and underwent successful surgery, so he's doing okay. But we just send out our prayers as well to make sure he gets through his illness with a speedy recovery.
Absolutely.
Make sure to check us out on Facebook as well. Pipebomb Radio,
Facebook, Twitter,
Instagram,
YouTube.
Twitter at Pipebomb _radio. I believe it's 1_ or 2_.
I believe it's 2, but nonetheless, just go to our website. It has a link for everything, and you'll get hooked up with wherever you want to go, with whether it's Tuesday, whether it's Thursday, whether it's just looking back at some past episodes, or just to point and laugh at the people who we've had and be like, they didn't have them. I got to listen to that. Anyways, we've had a fun almost 2 years on the air, so the fun will just keep going. And now with the addition of Nate and, of course, the success of Thursday's show, we just continue to get better and better. Nate, I know you have your show that you definitely want to plug, so fire away with your plugs and not to mention that little video that you posted about how that went as well.
Yes, well, first off, I entered the AOL Sports Search Contest. They were looking for a sportscaster, and you had to put together a 2-minute clip or go to one of the auditions in New York or L.A. Obviously, I couldn't get out to one of the auditions, so I sent a clip in, and I didn't win. But I was one of the 40 or so featured videos that they put up on the homepage, so I guess that's a little consolation prize. But I had fun, and thanks for everybody who hit me up on Facebook and liked the videos and commented on the videos. So this won't be the last you hear from me in a situation in front of the camera. And then you can check out my podcast, The Kings of Sport, at Facebook.com/Kings of Sport. Also, check us out on Twitter, KOS_POD. Check it out on iTunes and Stitcher. Like it, share it, and send it to your friends. And that's that. So, Kings of Sport.
Yes,
you know
definitely.
what's funny about that? I mean, Nate, I was actually laughing. It's so funny to me. You actually have something in common with Team Cena at Survivor Series. You're both going to lose. I mean, you already lost, so, I mean, and Team Cena's going to lose, too. I know you're laughing, too. Isn't it funny? I'm going to be laughing all the way until the Authority wins this Sunday. And you guys are going to see it
Folks,
next Tuesday night on Pipebomb Radio.
Tune in to Pipebomb Radio next Tuesday night because we may only have two hosts hosting the show next week.
And Austin will be just like John Cena. We can't see him.
We shall see you guys. Survivor Series comes your way on the WWE Network this Sunday night. Make sure you check it out. It's all on the line. The Authority against Team Cena. Will the Authority be put out of commission once and for all? Or will Team Cena go down and definitely be made to pay the Authority? On behalf of Austin and Nate, this is Felix for Pipebomb Radio saying keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. Good night, everybody. Good night, guys.
Good night.